So I'm not sure how helpful that is to see from the camera's point of view, because it is difficult to tell how big the steps are and such. But just general principles, you want to walk as smoothly as possible in as flowing a manner when you're walking downhill. And that may not increase your speed that much in the short run, but in the long run, you're going to be a lot less tired and you're going to be hurting a lot less at the end of the day. And again, you're thinking about, it's not as important when you go downhill to increase speed. It's more important to protect your body, to walk in a smooth fashion where you're going to be able to walk for a long period of time, and it's not going to take a lot out of your joints, not going to take a lot out of your muscles. So I would say that would be the general principle you want to think about when walking downhill on more technical terrain. So one other kind of general point is, just like a safe driver, you want to shift your focus from sort of the distance, looking really down the trail, to looking kind of in the mid distance, maybe say 10 steps ahead, and looking at what you're actually doing in the moment. And if you can, the more you can keep your focus shifting from distance to mid distance, then the more efficient just your overall path is going to be. So sometimes you'll miss the easier path because you're so focused on what your feet are doing. So if I flip the camera around just to show you this stretch of trail. So in this stretch of trail, if I'm just concentrating, if my focus is here, well, just like with what you're seeing now, I really don't have a sense of what's coming up, right? I'm just looking at where I'm placing my feet at the moment. So I may need to do that if the trail is tough enough. But if I can look ahead, like for instance, looking ahead, I mean, I could be walking on the left side of the trail, or I could be walking in the middle, or I could be walking in the right. But as I look up ahead, I can clearly see there's a path where most people have taken. And that's almost always going to be the easier path. So just overall, I get a sense of, okay, overall, I'm going to be staying at the moment on the right-hand side of this particular trail. And that can change, multiple times in a minute as far as where the most efficient place is. For instance, right here, you can see that most people now have been walking on the left side of the trail over here. And then it's a little bit confused here. And then the left side of the trail continues to be the side most people have walked on. So if I'm focusing just on individual footsteps, I'm going to miss that big picture. And in this case, like this trail is so easy that I don't need to look down at my feet at all or where my foot placement is. But in general, alternate focus as much as you can. And one more general point, this one about footwear. It is true that the less weight you have on your feet, all other things being equal, the faster you're going to be able to walk. And it can make a pretty substantial difference. But there's the key thing, all other things being equal, because they aren't. So if you're used to walking in very protective hiking boots with a more substantial, or running shoes that have a substantial heel drop, you probably don't want to go directly to a minimal shoe, let's say with no heel drop. It's kind of a recipe for getting injured, getting some kind of an overuse injury. So if you're making the transition to a more lighter weight shoe, or a shoe with with less heel drop, a shoe that's closer to barefoot walking, I would advise doing that in stages, because you can definitely end up in a whole world of hurt, plantar fasciitis, or a number of things that you can get from making that change too quickly. And you may find, if you go that route, you may find that you reach a point where you're really happy with your footwear before you get to the zero heel drop. So it's a personal thing. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. My wife went to a very minimal shoe, which she was very, very happy with, ended up hitting her toe against a rock and broke her toe fairly badly. So, I mean, that's something you don't think about, but she was quite acclimated to the shoes from a muscular point of view. But, you make a misstep, you hit your toe forward, and if you don't have any protection, you could be in for some trouble. So there are pluses and minuses on both sides, and I think it's a personal decision. I wouldn't let anybody try to talk you into one way or another. But I would make any transition that you make slowly and carefully, let's say, just to avoid those kind of injuries that you can get. If you have terrain that's kind of fussy like this, by fussy I mean you do kind of have to look down a good bit to avoid from tripping. I think the most important thing to do is to just try to keep your stride rate relatively even. So whether that means maybe having to take a little bit shorter step or occasionally taking a longer step, I think that keeping your stride rate even is going to keep your power output about the same. It's going to help you to walk efficiently and to not use any unnecessary energy as you're walking. So I'm just trying to keep, pretty even rate and not slow down when I don't need to. So if I'm leaning forward at the ankle and I'm keeping my stride rate up a little bit, that's actually very easy to do because you just get used to taking shorter steps when you need to take shorter steps. And definitely if you have a choice between taking 2 shorter steps or 1 longer step, opt for taking 2 shorter steps. It's going to be much more efficient and economical in the long run. One more general thing that I find to be very helpful if I'm out for, let's say, a whole day hike, is take a break every hour or so. I mean, you don't need to be too anal about it, but maybe after 45 minutes has gone by, maybe after an hour and a half has gone by, but say roughly keep it around an hour. Take a little break, just 5 or 10 minutes. I find that if I take a break longer than about 10 minutes, when I start walking again, I'm kind of stiff for about 10 minutes. And so I try to never take a break that's longer than around 10 minutes. But it's just something you look forward to, and it's something that I think over the course of a whole day will keep you maybe nearly as fresh toward the end of the day as you were at the beginning of the day. And it's a nice little thing to look forward to also, that little break. And when I take a little break, I try to eat a little something too. I mean, maybe just 100 calories, right? Just a little something kind of keeps my energy level steady. And I know not everybody eats a lot of little tiny snacks like that. So if you're not used to doing that, and you don't have any problem with keeping a steady energy output, then, by all means, don't go that way. But I find for me, at least, it really helps to keep a nice steady energy throughout the day while I'm exercising, while I'm walking. So I made it to the turnaround spot, the halfway point, and it's a good place to take a break and to actually eat kind of a little meal. So to say more than 100 calories. In the old days, I probably would have brought, I don't know, for a hike this length, maybe 3 or 4 candy bars and a big soda. But I've tried to make substitute out healthier, more nutritious food for that kind of food and substitute out water for soda. It's made a huge difference in the way that I feel, in my energy level, in my weight. So it's just been a win-win. And as my taste buds have adapted, I mean, I look forward to eating a salad or eating some almonds as much as I used to look forward to eating a candy bar. So it just takes a little bit of time. But I think if you can just substitute out things that have added sugar, substitute out something else for things that have added sugar, substitute out, some more vegetables or fruit or meat or, whatever you like. But the less added sugar you can eat, definitely the better it's going to be for your health and the better it's going to be for your weight and the faster you're going to be able to walk too. So that's kind of a win-win. And rather than concentrating on, let's say, spending vast amounts of money to get ultra lightweight gear, just drop a few pounds off your body. It kind of amounts to the same thing. And it's definitely going to improve your health as well. So I'm back on the road, back on a nice level section of the road, and this is a good place to really put that leaning forward from the ankle and increasing the stride rate kind of tips into play, because you don't have to worry about terrain and you don't have to worry about hills. So it's really just boiling down to 2 things, right? your stride rate and your stride length. I mean, ultimately your speed is just based on that. So if you can increase one or both of those things, then you're going to increase your speed. And like I said before, increasing your stride rate is, I think, always going to be preferable to increasing your stride length. And I think that as you get stronger, your stride length is just going to increase naturally, but I would definitely not advise kind of artificially lengthening your stride length. But working on increasing your stride rate, I think, is going to be just a win-win for you in terms of increasing your speed without increasing the amount of effort, particularly that you're putting into it. One other general comment about what you're wearing is when you start out the hike, if it's a little bit cool, wear one less layer than you think you need to. And then if you're still cool and after about 10 or 15 minutes of walking, go ahead and put on a layer. But I find that what'll happen is you'll be dressed so that you're comfortable when you're not walking. And then you start walking, your body warms up, you start sweating a little bit, then you're kind of reluctant to take that layer off because being sweaty cools you off. And then your body starts to overheat a little bit, but you don't want to take off that layer because you're sweaty. And so if you're overheated a bit, that's definitely going to slow you down. So I would just err on the side of being a little bit cool, a little bit chilly when you start your hike. And after 15 minutes, again, if you're still chilly, put on that layer, but you'll probably find that you don't get chilly, right? It's enough. The walking is going to be enough to warm you up, and that'll keep you also encouraged to walk quickly, right? If you're a little bit cool, you're probably going to walk a little bit faster than if you're too warm. It's just being warm, you'll subconsciously start slowing down so that you don't overheat. And sometimes you don't even know that you're doing that. So just another little general tip